All right, demo time. Live demos are always fun. Before we jump into that, I thought it would make sense to kind of visualize what we're going to see and what we're going to talk about between taking the data from Claravine and managing metadata, pushing it into Snowflake, and kind of what is that, the different data sources that you need. We've talked about them to some degree, but obviously there's all the platforms on the left, which, are creating campaigns, experiences, both from a, acquisition, retention perspective from customers where brands are trying to reach their customers, whether that be onsite or offsite, generating performance. So knowing how those campaigns are doing and looking at that reporting data. So from a media perspective, things like impression, delivery, CPM, budget, all of that metadata getting pulled in through an ETL vendor to aggregate that data from those different systems from a performance perspective. There's the Claravine metadata that can help join and connect this data in, having a single source of truth for your campaign metadata to feed into your analytics system. In this case, Snowflake, where that data gets joined alongside of that performance data to create the views and, be able to accurately slice and dice that performance data. And then there's the user level behavior data. So, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, the different website, mobile app data where you have customer data, both anonymous and known, to be able to pull that data in, maybe even purchase data from a, in-store perspective of where you have an email address and you're capturing that information. How do you merge and bring that data all together in a system like Snowflake? And so this is kind of how it all lays out. And there's obviously the dashboards and the visualizations that sit on top of that data set or the combination of those data sets together. And so let me switch over here to see if this transitions correctly. All right, and so this is the Claravine, the Data Standards Cloud. I mentioned the concept of a template, and so we're gonna use an example for media placement names in this case. And so when you think about what that template is, oops, let's see here. Let's try that again. I don't know what just happened. When we think about what the data definitions are, so you've got a placement name as an example, you've got a number of different fields. That template is for us where that metadata, the standards, the dropdowns, text fields, the logic around how that data should ultimately be viewed. And so in this example here, I'm going to take some example names that typically, these probably look familiar. I'm just going to pick a subset of them. And I'm going to bring those into Claravine. And so in one way where we define what that looks like, we can break apart existing data. So it's that first use case we talked about. You've got a lot of data sitting in different systems. You may have rules to make sense of this data in many different places, right? In your analytics system, there may already be data sitting in Snowflake where someone's building exception tables. We've heard kind of about those tables to understand that data as it comes in. As we think about having that single source of truth, we can look at that data and say, someone thought it was right, maybe from their vantage point it was right from a naming convention perspective, but it doesn't match the standards. And so this is the set of platforms and how they should be described. And so they can go through here and quickly see where they should validate, validate that data. And I changed one here, change that back. And you'll notice here that I can't send that data to Snowflake, which I'll show you how that works until all that data has been cleaned up. So as we think about, proactively managing that data quality, this is here in cross device. And so once I validate and structure the data correctly, I know that I can send it and push it to any of the places that I've configured this template specifically to map that data to. And so I would go through and submit this data here and validate all that data is going to go through. And what that, is sending that data over, I'm going to go through here, and this is more that configuration side. And so getting a little bit of a preview here from an integration perspective, but we have this concept of inbound and outbound integration. So I copied and pasted that data into a template. We also have some connectors where we can connect out into different systems, whether that be digital asset management systems for creative media systems to bring in that data, or even have teams that are helping create that data. Bring it in, and then in this case here where we're pushing it to Snowflake, I've already connected to a Snowflake account, and then I'm pulling that into the specific account and I'm pushing it to a specific table in that account. And here's where I can control and manage that that future proofing and the mapping of data from the come back here real quick. The media team needs it named a certain way, and they have their way of working, but that may not map exactly to what we need in Snowflake and to push it into the table for the reporting and analytics. So here you can see not all the fields are being sent. I can choose to send all the fields. I can change the format and map to different field names, but here it gives you that control to collaborate with your data teams on how it should end up in Snowflake. I'm gonna stop sharing and hand it over to Jim for you to kind of show how it looks in Snowflake.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So here I have loaded that metadata through from Claravine into a table in Snowflake. So you can see these this same metadata that you were just showing has landed in Snowflake. At the same time, I have loaded the actual data from the different platforms into Snowflake as well. So these are the informations on the placements for a given campaign. This is sort of daily snapshots of the data with the number of impressions, clicks, conversions, and so forth that have come through the different channels and been aggregated up by placement by day. And without something like Claravine, in order to get to sort of the specific type of reporting that I might need I might need to parse these placement names and find the which column in this Franken name, as I like to call it, that I care about. I might have to parse that out, and I might have to, clean it up because there might be inconsistent naming if it hadn't been already handled. There might be inconsistent numbers of columns. Maybe some of these were missing a column. I've seen I've seen a wide variety of very messy metadata over the years. But with Claravine, with the metadata being unified and loaded, we can be confident that this is all correct. So then that allows us to do reporting. So here I'm doing reporting by month, where I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at it by strategy. Okay. And so now that strategy is going to be sort of across channels. So, regardless of what channel the actual ad ran on, I can be sure that the strategy is clean and conforms to the data standards that we've set. And I can look at a chart. I can add it by strategy. And here I can see a line chart that's showing me how many impressions I'm having by strategy by month. Let's look at another one here. This is a query that shows the data by month by persona, the number of impressions by month by persona. Again, regardless of what channel it's actually running in, I can be sure that the personas match the data standards. And when I go here and graph the data by persona, I can see by month how many impressions I'm running against each persona, all clean, all conforming to the standards. So it makes it really easy to have your data and your metadata both loaded into Snowflake, where you're just doing the join based on the placement ID and being sure that the data is all coming through cleanly.